At some point in your life, you'll find yourself on a genre kick. You'll start with a drunken binge run of Mr. Ed and then think to yourself, guess I'm watching anthropomorphic horses for the next 3 weeks. And before you know it, you're on the internet discussing with several angry strangers the varied reasons that My Little Pony does a better job of handling existential crisis than BoJack Horseman. It's rarely the proudest moment in your life. Lately, my kick has been indie horror games. Not the jump scare heavy FNAF clones, I leave those games to the experts. No, I've been finding myself drawn to one atmospheric grimfest after another, and my most recent discovery is an indie stealth adventure with the decidedly Prince-style title of Too Dark. And if Too Dark proved anything to me, it's that I might need a break from the bleakness of the universe. Maybe just play something bright and rosy until I stop associating my computer monitor with the inevitability of a cruel, uncaring death. Too Dark is a horror-noir piece set in the creepy little town of Gloomywood during the 70s. You play a grizzled detective who has lost his children, his wife, and possibly his mind, as he attempts to uncover the truth behind a string of child kidnappings that have happened in the local area. This involves a relatively clever combination of adventure item collection with a shadowy stealth system. Every level includes rooms full of clues and children to be saved. Similar to other stealth games, you receive a score based on the conditions of your level completion. Did you kill anyone? Did you save all the children? Etc. It's actually a pretty promising premise. Did I have enough peas in there? Yes. It's not without problems, however. Let's start with the graphics. Far be it from me to judge an indie game based on graphics. That seems pointless, but there is no getting around it. Too Dark is bone ugly. And that lack of definition can be problematic for a couple of reasons. First, when you're looking to find out which items can be picked up and used, the pixelated blobs that represent items will give little away as to whether or not they can even be picked up. The best you get is an inquisitive grunt from your protagonist whenever you're nearing something that can be picked up. And by that time, you might have snuck painstakingly from one shadow to another, only to come up with diddly squat. Secondly, the gameplay visuals of Too Dark are a glaring contrast to the art style you see in many of the game's close-ups, newspaper clippings, photographs, that sort of thing. They're done with a deeply, deeply disturbing style. Think of a Tim Burton who absolutely despises children, like the kind of guy who would give Willy Wonka a run for his money. For as grotesque as these illustrations tend to be, they're really very well made, and there are a lot of them, and they stand out against the graininess of Too Dark's gameplay in a way that almost makes it feel like you're playing two different games. That grotesque art direction, it turns out, is absolutely perfect for the story and the overall tone of this game. Too Dark is, well, dark. Perhaps even too dark. T-O-O, dark. Don't at me. A general warning to viewers, if you prefer your horror without the graphic murder and mutilation of young children in various psychotic fashions, please consider avoiding this game. The entire plot hinges around saving children, after all, and the designers aren't particularly interested in letting up on that fact. By the end of Too Dark, I was thinking, please, aren't there some old people or middle-aged men who need to be saved? Please, kill someone old enough to vote, for Christ's sake. You save those children by leading them out of the level, or if engaging in some of the longest escort missions you've ever experienced doesn't interest you, you can physically pick up the little bastards and lug them to safety. You also have the option to lure the children to you with candy, which... Okay, beyond the creepy hey Aqualung implications of such an action, I gotta worry about its effectiveness. I know that if I had just watched several of my friends get turned into cat food or a skin doll, I wouldn't really give a shit about a fun-sized Snickers bar, but what do I know? It's been a long time since I was 6, and kidnapped for that matter. My opinion on the horrifying violence inflicted on these kids fluctuated as the game went on. Sometimes the fear for these children felt wonderfully executed, a thrilling horror show. At other times it felt tasteless and a little cruel. People who really enjoy grimdark horror, however, shouldn't have an issue with this, I imagine. As far as mechanics go, 2 Dark is also a mixed bag. The stealth and point-of-view systems seem pretty sound. It was rare that I was caught sneaking around when I felt like it wasn't my own damn fault. Your enemies suffer from the same problems that enemies tend to suffer from in stealth games. They follow the same set path over and over. However, 2 Dark had more than a few bugs, where certain seemingly inconsequential moments would push your opponents off of their set path, and they'd end up stuck or otherwise behaving erratically. I never noticed any of these bugs that would wreck the game, but if I wanted to finish a level without killing an enemy, I would find myself in lots of preventable situations that required me to restart the level or load up a save game. The controls in 2 Dark were interesting. You'll amass a huge variety of weapons, tools, and evidence, and how you interact with objects around you depends on which of these items you have assigned to which hand. It's an interesting process, and you can combine items in an adventure game style, looking for clues or helpful combinations. This even works in the save game feature, which requires you to combine a pack of cigarettes and a lighter. That's right, your save file is a literal smoke break. And that's pretty clever. However, by the 50th lucky strike, you'll be wishing there wasn't just a save button, if only for the sake of your poor protagonist's lungs. As each level progresses, you find yourself accumulating more and more stuff, and that's where the main problem comes in. 2 Dark is definitely a game in which you're expected to take your time and be deliberate. However, when you're in a chase or otherwise need time on your side, the interface is a royal pain in the ass. Going into your items section is in real time. Gone are the good old Skyrim days of getting down to 5% health, hitting pause, and consuming 400 wheels of cheese. Overall, 2 Dark has created something genuinely unique here. I think stealth fans and indie horror lovers will both find this to be an experience worth having. And to call 2 Dark gritty is the understatement of the decade. However, with the bugs I encountered and the gameplay problems, it's sorta hard to recommend at full price. As far as its theme is concerned, 2 Dark does very well, but when it comes to putting it in practice, there are plenty of creases that they need to iron out. There are blood-soaked garbage bags full of quality indie horror and stealth games out there, and unless you seriously need to see some kids die right the fuck now, I wouldn't have this one at the top of my list. And by the way, if you do seriously need to see some kids die right the fuck now, maybe consider acquainting yourself with something cuddly and adorable for a little while. Might I recommend Talking Horses?
If Daddy don't sink a little drinky, Daddy gets sad and blue. Sneak a little drinky, sneakity-doo. Sneak a little drinky past you. Sneak a little drinky, sneakity-doo. Sneak a little drinky past you.